All right, welcome back, Chelsea fans, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. I, of course, am not Brandon, nor am I Dan. I am Nick, and we are here for just a quick update with Nizaar Kinsella, one of these special episodes that we do every single month. And Naz, how are we doing? There's a lot going on. How are you holding up throughout all the different kind of movements at Chelsea Football Club?
Yeah, it's been good. I think just Chelsea picking up again is nice. It's always better to cover when they're doing better. It's been painful last year, I think, for every Chelsea fan, but certainly you get subjected to a lot of the anger as a reporter when you follow a team around. So I think it's good that the vibe is sort of picking up a little bit. I think Chelsea fans want more, but I feel like the light is at the end of the tunnel a little bit, and positivity is coming back.
We have a lot to cover in this one ahead of the Brentford match at the weekend. We'll talk about key injuries. We'll talk about Chelsea playing back into form, maybe some way too early transfer rumors, all the sort of stuff that you would come to expect. But of course, we do this every episode, our call to action. We wouldn't exist without you. We want you guys to be even more connected with our community. If you are thinking of like ways to support us and you're like, hey, I would love to do a little bit more than just listen to the show, there are some free ways to do that. So if you go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave a 5-star review, that is awesome. Also, we love reading them. We've had some doozies over the years from folks who have left some incredible 5-star reviews. So that's just a nice way to do that. Helps other people find the show. If you do want to get deeper into the Patreon community, that is available to you as well. Patreon.com/London Blue Pod. YouTube is picking up, so we're almost at 30K. We really want to get across the line. So head on over to YouTube, subscribe. We're putting a lot of clips and fun stuff over there right now as well. Reminder, we obviously released our Arsenal episode on Monday. You were listening to this on Wednesday. And then our Blue Royalty Brighton review is out Monday as well. So go over to Blue Royalty and subscribe over there. All right. Enough of that. Look, Naz, first and foremost, you've had some personal updates since we last talked. Congratulations on getting married, man. That's a big deal.
I know it is a big deal. It's exciting. Great day. I missed the Burnley game, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing in a way. But it was a great day, honestly. And I think that anyone who's been married will just say you hope it's that special day. Luckily, it was for me. Luckily, everything went to plan. But yeah, it's quite strange. Like life just goes on, right? So if it's a big day and then life goes on and you're back on the football train. And my first day back at work was going to St George's Park, where England train, and that's in the middle of nowhere, about 4 hours away from London. So it is a bit of a baptism of fire, going from the highs of sort of marriage and then back to international duty in a way, which is a pleasure to do. But yeah, sometimes traveling that distance there and back in a day probably isn't the best day to come back to in a way. But yeah, it's all good. And looking forward to honeymoon, another little break, and I'll make sure I don't miss any more Chelsea games next time.
Yeah. We scored 4 goals that game, so I don't know. It was nice
But
to.
you travelled to Burnley, that's the problem. You need 4 goals to make it worthwhile.
We hear that from everybody, that it's perhaps not the greatest away day. So, look, everyone here, of course, wishes you well. Hit Naz up on Twitter, send him some congratulations. He deserves it. He's been a part of our community for some time. So, all right, out of the way. No more embarrassing you in front of all your friends. Hard pivot, though, because, there's no other way that you could really do a topic like this. Sir Bobby Charlton obviously passed away at the weekend. Emotional scenes across the landscape of English football, not just at United. Can you kind of explain your feelings on this massive, massive loss in the football community and kind of greater kind of English society?
Yeah, in a way, it probably might not feel too relevant to Chelsea fans, but he is sort of England's greatest, potentially greatest ever player. They won the World Cup. one of the main goal scorers in the team. Just actually, I think he was when England won the World Cup. I think he was the main man. Literally, if you were looking at a main attacker, it would have been him. He didn't score in the final because he was man marked by Franz Beckenbauer, Germany's main man. So they marked each other, and it was a great thing. But yeah, he was a legend for that reason. He was a legend for when it comes to Man United, the plane crash. The Busby Babes, they died in a plane crash. A whole team and Man United were going on to be the best team in England, and they weren't at that time until these youngsters came through. They all died in a plane crash, a Munich air crash, and I think it was back when tribalism wasn't quite as bad. Football wasn't on TV as much, but whenever there was a team in Europe, the whole of England got behind that team. So when Man United died in a plane crash, everyone was really upset, of course, in the whole country. And yeah, it set the team back 10 years, but Charlton survived. He survived the plane crash and went from that team and built a new team with Sir Matt Busby and eventually won the European Cup. So I think it's really probably the story that made Man United a big team. I think before that, they were a fairly big team, but not the mega club we know them now. So that's the legacy, really. He built a club. He's built a club. He's been one of the only English players to win a World Cup, and I think winning the Ballon d'Or as well. Just regarded really as one of the absolute greats. So we've seen Pele die recently. We've seen Maradona die recently, and this is kind of the English version of that. I don't think you could really pick another figure quite at that level. And I think that the other thing that people respect him for is he was a gentleman. We saw people like John Terry paying tributes to him, people at all different clubs. It's not just a Man United thing. I think that everyone in English football looked upon him as sort of like almost a grandfather figure in the game. And yeah, really, really sad, but he left a great legacy probably for English football and beyond, really.
Yeah, the respect poured out across the whole football landscape on Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, I mean, it's just you don't get these many chances to celebrate people, maybe as we should, right? And he was one that I think throughout his career and certainly into his retirement was celebrated and rightfully so. And so hopefully that is a small comfort to his friends and family. But yeah, just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
No, yeah, I think it's nice also just to come together as a football community as well, and that's what these figures do, and it reminds you kind of why you love football, and maybe the older generation know him better, but I think that's what these figures do, right?
Yeah, definitely. We have to hard pivot again. This is a series of hard pivots at the start of the show. Reports out that Chelsea's match with Wolves is going to be moved to Christmas Eve from the 23rd, a Saturday to a Sunday. There hasn't been Christmas football since 1995, and I think that's for pretty obvious reasons. It's kind of a period where teams are allowing their players to kind of have family days. They, of course, play on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. So, Naz, not to ask too harsh of a question here, but what the fuck is going on with this?
Well, I do think that people will enjoy watching it from TV, but it's those who have to go there. I mean, even maybe fans on TV will watch it because they've got plans. But yeah, Boxing Day game, the Christmas Eve game, it really sucks. The idea and the fact that Chelsea get the game is terrible for Chelsea, especially because it's away. Maybe not, I'm sure the players will raise their game for the match, but it's really bad for the fans, really bad. I think that it's as bad as you could pretty much get. Just the fact that everyone has plans, right, at Christmas. Like, Christmas is a huge thing in Britain, a huge thing in America, blah, blah, blah. And to put a game and expect the fans to not only get there to the Midlands, which is a bit of a journey, pay for it. It's going to be full of people who don't care about football, who are traveling for all kinds of other reasons. And then the fact that the trains in this country are rubbish at the best of times and are going to be really bad on Christmas Eve. And then people have plans, Christmas plans, all this kind of thing. It costs it will cost people money. It will cost people, money to change plans and things like that. And not everyone has loads of money, like which, people are trying their best to follow Chelsea. Even people who work for the club, the coaches and players are paid well, yes, but a lot of other people don't want to be working all the way through when they maybe have a thankless job, don't get paid that much, blah, blah, blah. So I find it absolutely terrible. As a football fan, I don't really wish that on anyone. I don't think that the Premier League should take the ones that go to the games for granted. I think that a lot of people who have fallen in love with English football through TV as well, they've fallen in love with it because they love the atmosphere, the passion in the stands and things like that. And if you're going to keep messing fans around all the time, like doing this, then it's going to really take away that passion. There's not going to be that audience in the crowd. It's not going to be that amazing atmosphere. I mean, for me, actually, the atmosphere is one of the biggest things that I love about football. I love the game, but I actually love the fan culture. I love all that stuff. So I think that the Premier League needs to be very careful at how far they're pushing it, and they are pushing it to the limit for TV revenues. And this is what this is about as well, by the way. Yeah, I'll chuck in a few other things. There's other Premier League, the next Premier League TV rights deals coming out, and they're creating new kickoff times, and there's many kickoff times that you can't get back from. So if a Chelsea play Newcastle and on a Saturday evening, then they can't get back. They have to pay for a hotel then, and it becomes even more expensive on top of £100 train ticket. Probably you're talking about £300-400 for a weekend, and if you're a season ticket holder, that's another 1,000. And how much money do you want people to spend on this sport? It's crazy. So yeah, I'm concerned about these kind of updates. They might seem trivial to people that don't go to the games, but it really could sanitize the sport, and I think that is the danger. Yeah. So and also I personally have to work on Christmas Eve now, which I am quite annoyed about. I must say, there's no silver lining for me. I am pissed off.
I think this is. Well, it's just bad. It's bad all the way around. There's no good about it. I will of course be watching from the comfort of my parents' living room on Christmas Eve because that's where I would be anyway. But Tim Rolls, formerly of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, said if this is the case, then shame on the Premier League. Family and social commitments for many supporters and a dysfunctional travel service make it a grim prospect, especially for away supporters. Yeah, and Matt Law brought this up too. The stadium workers, right? The folks who are just kind of on an hourly wage, who are making the concessions or doing the security or whatever. I mean, it's just awful. And you add to the fact that this is already a congested fixture timeline, right? Chelsea were supposed to play on the 23rd, and then on Boxing Day, the 26th. I would imagine the Boxing Day match gets moved to the 27th if they shift. But even then, it goes from 2 to 3 days where you don't have to prep. You have no time to prep basically because of the holiday. So it's just bad all the way around. If they were worried about TV revenue, why don't they just open up the 3 p.m. kickoff so that everyone can watch it? I mean, that would make you a lot more money than all these weird kickoff times and shifting matches all the time and stuff like that. So, that is my last thought on that. Just a quick ad break here, guys, before we continue on. We have some thoughts about Chelsea playing into form, especially after the result against Arsenal, key injuries, and so much more. We will be right back. All right, Naz, you were at the match on Saturday. Obviously, a disappointing result, but a lot to take out of it. If you're a Chelsea fan in particular, we covered it in our review on Monday that we thought the team played a really, really solid match, kind of undone by a couple of silly mistakes. What were your thoughts being there, and kind of what is impressing you about this last, kind of run of 4 games, beating Brighton, beating Fulham, beating Burnley, and then, of course, drawing against Arsenal?
Yeah, it is a good run. It is a good run, definitely. I've been impressed with Cole Palmer's emergence. I think getting his foot on the ball, composure, confidence, scoring the penalties, getting assists. I think that's been huge for Chelsea tactically as well. Quite mobile, intelligent, coachable. So I think Poch has enjoyed working with him, and I think he's been huge for the team. I mean, I was looking at some analysis, and he was kind of playing false nine, but Gallagher was pushed right up there as well with him. So it's almost like a 4-4-2 at times in the game. And yeah, it just worked really well. And it's a really good sign if a young player can do that. I think Poch's system's really coming together now. I think that's been a huge thing. Just tactically, the players are really getting it, vibing it. Positivity, I think, amongst the group, confidence it'll come good. So yeah, I think that a lot of that kind of stuff's going well. I think physically Chelsea could still be better in Pochettino's mind, just because been so many injuries, so he's not been able to quite drill him physically as much as he wants. But yeah, the fact there's only one game a week, quite a lot now. I think that's going to help Chelsea a lot as well. So yeah, a lot of positives. I think he just wants, and speaking to Poch after the game, he just wants his players back. He thinks that Chelsea will get a lot better when they've got even more players. I mean, he sort of has like 11 players he picks now, and then there's sort of four subs he trusts, but kind of doesn't, really trust them fully. So I think he wants more of his big boys back. Reece James, being the obvious one. So, yeah, I think that's it really. I think there's still a few. The only concerns are really, I guess, being a bit naive, switching off. I'm a little bit concerned about Sanchez as well. His kicking was really poor, and rushing out as well was poor. A few times he got caught out. I thought Nketiah had a dangerous chance late on where he could have been caught as well. So, yeah, I think that's probably where we're at. But yeah, I kind of feel confident that Chelsea are going to pick up a lot of points in the coming weeks. I mean, I think they'll win some, they'll lose some, they'll draw some, but I think it'll get better. And I think Poch is still pretty confident that European qualifications on the cards, and pushing towards that Champions League as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're a little bit off of the pace right now, but I think looking at the run, there's a lot of different sorts of teams in there, right? Fulham and Burnley, obviously not kind of the cream of the crop, but Arsenal and Brighton, pretty decent, I'd say. Chelsea gave them fits at the weekend. I mean, I thought that was a really critical game, especially coming off an international break, which we all know is not easy for club sides to kind of get back into the groove. Of course, goalkeeper and striker are going to be looked at as kind of the two areas in which this team is still maybe incomplete as it stands today. But one player I want to give a shout to that we won't address later on, so I just want to give a shout to is Cucurella. What are your thoughts about his kind of reemergence here? I mean, partly forced, right, because of injuries and stuff like that, but he's played really well over the last month.
Yeah, I love stories like this. I mean, it's inspiring, really. The amount it's so hard. You can be destroyed about like what he's gone through. Many players have. They don't come back from a really bad season, ridicule. A lot of his own fans turned on him, but fans outside as well mocking you. It's a bit Harry Maguire like, really. I felt, and he's found it really hard. So see him perform like that, and he was key tactically. Like Chelsea will really cram the middle of the pitch, but those fullbacks were a bit exposed, and he had to be right on top of Saka all game, and he was so aggressive, so good. So I never really had any doubts about Cucurella being a good player, to be honest. I hadn't given up on him. I was just a bit nervous that maybe the psychological aspects of football would destroy him. And we've seen it with so many. Even Chelsea have had loads of players like that. Werner, missing chances became a thing, and it's pretty hard to get over. So yeah, I was really impressed with his mentality to get over it mainly, but I always thought the quality was there. If he could just sort of survive that, and we know, I think you've had Matt on here, and I've mentioned it. He's had a tough year off the field last year as well, so I think there's a really good chance that he could lock down that spot. I mean, Chilwell's getting a lot of injury problems, and I think Cucurella's likely to be more robust physically, so you could see a sort of scenario where he locks that down. And I know Colwell's playing there a minute, but I think Cucurella can do a lot of what Colwell does on that side. So it really is a good option for Chelsea. And I think when Reece is back, he can sort of be a defensive fullback, and Reece can be the one that goes flying forward as well. So that gives you further chance to do that. So Yeah, just super happy for him, to be honest. And I thought he was great, and I thought he was good at right back. But I actually thought that the Arsenal game was the comeback game, because in his best position, really top performer. I think he was the best player on the pitch, and I was absolutely blown away by him. I thought he was amazing.
Wow, okay, that's high praise. I mean, looking at the upcoming run of fixtures, it obviously is a gauntlet for Chelsea until we get through the kind of early part of December. Do you think that he is going to play a lot during this time? I mean, Colwell has obviously been preferred at left back for most of the season, but do you see a shift happening in the team where Poch maybe wants to balance that out with Cucurella at this point?
Look, I'd like to see him string it again, maybe one more performance against Brentford, and then maybe you've got a decision to make, because Disasi was pretty solid. Not perfect, I would say, but pretty solid. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of decisions to make. I know you've got it in your plan for later, but Badiashile is coming back. Centre back's
Hmm.
going to become a debate, and yeah, who's coming in, who's coming out? Thiago Silva has been a lot of debate about his performances, although I thought he was amazing against Arsenal. He
Amazing.
has had bad games, but he was amazing against Arsenal, and there's no doubt in his quality, but it's more about what does Poch want tactically. And I think if Chelsea get all these players back fit and available, then Poch can start picking for the game. Like, does Cucurella suit the game more than Colwell at left back? That will be a consideration, and you start making tactical decisions. In the past, in the recent weeks, it's just been get the 11 senior players on the pitch, and then one or two, hopefully, senior players will be half fit enough for the bench, and we'll fill the rest with youth. And that's what it's been. So I think that that's the way it's going to look. I think there will be a bit of rotation, and I think Cucurella will get decent minutes. And yeah, then you're thinking when Chilwell's back, what's it going to look like if it's Cucurella and Colwell show on the left?
Well, let's transition into the never fun topic, but the recurring topic of Chelsea's injury list. Obviously, a lot going on there, as you've just kind of covered off on some players. Cole Palmer, obviously deemed healthy to start at the weekend, doesn't seem to be too much of a problem with the injury he picked up for England over the international break. Reece James coming back. Disasi was kind of a surprise. And Jackson, it looks like he has a heavier bandage on that wrist now because of some light surgery that happened over the break. Those seem to be players that are coming back relatively soon alongside Badiashile. Is there anyone else to add to the not quite as hurt as a long-term injury, but could be coming back soon list, which is a whole different designation?
Yeah, I know. I think Armando Broya is not serious. So what happened with him was he got kicked in his non-surgically repaired knee, but that had a reaction. It wasn't too bad, but Chelsea just being really careful. I think when you've had an ACL in your right leg, you're more likely
Hmm.
to get knee injury in your left as well. So it's just like super careful with him. So he's actually broadly fine. It's just sort of managing him in the best way. So that's good news because he's been really good. When he came back, I was absolutely in shock of as a guy's had his ACL done twice myself. I was absolutely shocked at his performances. I mean, the medical team at Chelsea have had a lot of criticism, but to get a player back that fit and looking that good straight away, it blew me away.
And he does. He looks fit too. It's not just like running shape, but he looks like he's Premier
Oh
League
yeah.
ready.
Oh yeah, he was always a big guy, but I've heard he's used time really well. I mean, you hear about this kind of stuff a lot, but actually, big injury, sometimes you can use it to your benefit. So as a striker, you want to be strong, you want to be able to hold up the ball. Sometimes Breuer maybe didn't have the best balance and things like that. So I think it's going to really potentially stand him in good stead, and he must be looking at somebody like Harry Kane, who Poch has worked with, and think Harry Kane was a machine. And actually, when I've been reading Poch's book, and when Harry Kane joined Tottenham, he had the most body fat in the squad. And when Poch left, he was probably the fittest guy, the most animalistic physique you could possibly imagine, Cristiano Ronaldo style. So I think that Breuer will look at that and think, God, I want a piece of that with this coaching team. That's what they excel in. think the next people to come back. I mean, Carney Chukwuemeka. He had a setback, but hopefully it's not too big. It sounded just like a small thing. Chalobah, I don't think he'll be out that long, even though he had a setback as well over the international break. And I guess some of the Nkunku videos are encouraging. He's not due back till December, but yeah, I mean, it seems like he's on track. And yeah, it's been quite an interesting thing. A lot of you guys won't have known this, but the injured players keep coming in the press room for some reason. So we're spending a lot of time with them lately. At half time, they always come in and get the press teas and maybe a couple of snacks. So yeah, they all look pretty strong. Even Wesley Fofana's not even walking with a limp or anything. So I'm not expecting him back anytime soon, but it's just nice to see that these lads are positive, contributing, not looking too injured or upset. And I do think that Chelsea are getting there in general with the injuries. So hopefully a few of these guys back.
Disasi, anything to worry about there? Is that just kind of a light knock and he'll be back?
Yeah, no, that's definitely nothing major. I mean, I think they could have played him if they had to for the last game, but they didn't. And yeah, I just want to shout out the fact that Disasi never been injured for a game before, and joins Chelsea within 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, we were bound to break that. Come on, please.
I think maybe unused sub is we can count that as he didn't miss a game, right? So let's say that.
Yeah, if he was on the bench, it's not like he was completely out, but Nkunku is obviously the big one, right? I mean, this is obviously the player that Chelsea built the attack around in preseason. We saw what his passing and interchange and movement looked like. December isn't that far away. We're about 5 weeks from the start of December. Any thoughts on what he is looking at in terms of target date at this point, or is it still too early?
No, I don't think anyone would give a date, but he's not on grass. I don't think. I've not seen him on grass. We've seen the players training quite a lot, and don't think he's on the grass yet. Still gym work, so it's a bit of a sign. It's not imminent.
Okay, well, he's the one. I think we're all very impatiently waiting for him to get back into the team and see what he can do. But look, I mean, obviously, tons of injuries, but hopefully getting that corrected here. It seems like Lavia is going to be out for a while as well, per the last update, right?
Yeah, I think that the last update was correct. Just a real shame. Yeah, just another setback. So yeah, the international break wasn't great for Chelsea. 3 setbacks, I think, happened, which is quite rare to even have one setback. So yeah, Chalobah, Carney, Lavia. Not great, but the current midfield's playing so well that I guess Chelsea can absorb it. If he could be back for December as well, then that would be a bit of a boost just to be a squad player in a busy period, right? So 1 game a week, he's probably not desperately needed, and getting fit is the most important thing.
Kind of riding our luck there right now, so knock on wood that no injuries happen. Look, we'll take another quick ad break, and then we're back for the duration. We're talking about Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher, and Mykhailo Mudryk, plus transfer rumors, because that's what we do here, and a lot more. So just tune in. We'll be right back. All right, Naz, you started on Cole Palmer earlier. This is a player who, you kind of hinted at in the transfer window there could be something different that happened at the end of the window. It was Cole Palmer, right? Pochettino, in your article, describes him as a link player. He's brought composure to the attack. This is clearly an attack that is a work in progress, right? It's picked up recently, but it did not start the season well. 2 goals, 2 assists. Just looks calm and collected on the ball, which is something that Chelsea have not always exhibited in attack over the last couple of seasons. Just finish your thoughts on Cole and what he's bringing to this team. And it seems to me like he's a locked-in starter from this point forward.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm putting him in my FPL team, actually.
Ooh.
Carding him in. So, it's going to be big. Going to be big. A turning point for my season and Chelsea. So, Yeah, I think that what impresses me about him is, yeah, he's got that huge character already. I think that coming from Manchester City, he's sort of come with the confidence and winning mentality. I mean, Chelsea are undefeated in games he started. That's not by chance, I think. He really fits in behind the scenes. I've heard the fact he's taking penalties just after joining the club at 21 years old is crazy.
It's
Um,
big.
I I think one of the other things as well is that the way Pep Guardiola coaches is kind of from the Poch school as well. So it's almost felt like he's just sort of slotted in. I've studied a lot of Poch's formations and style of play and stuff, and there's just huge similarities between him and Guardiola in many ways. I mean, even the Colwell centre back playing at full back thing. I mean, that's something that Guardiola's doing. So when Chelsea Twitter's freaking out, easy one to point to is that it's the trend now, right? So yeah, I think Palmer really fits in like that. He's got quite a few friends in the squad. I know Sterling didn't look like his friend, but he was really happy, when he tried to take the penalty away from him. I think that was just confusion, by the way. But yeah, I think those two really get on. He gets on with Lavia, and they were both at Man City, and similarly with Levi Colwill and Noni, they won the Euros together as well, the U21s. So yeah, big player. He does a lot of jobs. He's a bit of a Swiss Army knife, from midfielder to false nine to winger. He can do a lot of things for Chelsea. So, yeah, I think he'll be great. He'll fit in. I think when Nkunku comes back, he'd probably threaten that place that he played the other day. But I think that they could coexist quite easily because they're both so tactically flexible, and you can see him moving around, swapping positions in game and things. So, yeah, I think that it's been a pretty inspired signing. It's worked out well, and Chelsea get hammered for the signings, and maybe rightly so at times. But this one, good price, good quality, good age, English, so works out pretty well so far.
Another English player who, for some reason, people just can't get over, is playing some of his best football right now is Conor Gallagher. I would make the argument at this point in the season that he has been Chelsea's most important player. That he is, since the adjustment has been made from him being kind of a six to more of the advanced player in the midfield, that his pressing and his ball winning and his key passes and all the sorts of things that make a midfield run have been immense. What are your thoughts on his performances? Obviously, this is a player who, going back to preseason, us seeing you in America, that this is a kind of a lightning rod type for fans. I don't know why, but he seems to be relishing the challenge, especially lately of being captain while Reece and Ben are out. Just thoughts on his performances so far, and I have a handy graphic there for you to look at as well.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna switch over the graphic, but yeah, I think I've been blown away by him. I love his work ethic. I've always liked him since I've seen him. I've seen him playing for Chelsea since he's an under 18s player. When I was going to a lot of academy games, so it's clear he was a star in the making. He's become a star. But I do think his, fans have been critical of him. I think that's because he did have a tough season last year. I mean, he was sort of degraded a little bit in the project, and I think Tuchel didn't work well with him either. Played him at number six. I don't think he's number six. I mean, he was one of the most advanced players playing in the last game. And yeah, I mean, his superpower is running. I remember I covering the England under 21s as well, a lot, especially during lockdown, and he's playing for them, and the England setup were blown away by him as well, saying yeah, he was at Palace at the time and just saying, yeah, his superpower is running. He gets to everything, like tackle, goal, chance to make an assist. It's just about his running ability. So if you can get him dynamic, which Potts likes to do, then that's what happens. So I think he found. I think he struggled as well last season under Potter, just changing position too much. He played wing back at Newcastle. I remember it was horrible to see, but he's just such an honest pro that he'll do whatever the team needs him to do. If Lampard's throwing him on against Real Madrid as a wrecking ball, then he'll try and do that. But he doesn't look good doing it. But it's just his honesty as a pro, which I really admire. But sometimes makes him look bad as well. So yeah, I've been so impressed with him, and I can understand why Chelsea have tried to sell him a few times in the last two windows, but I think the performances and especially winning Poch over, I think they should really need to try and start locking him down because not long left on his deal. I don't think there's a problem renewing him if they offer him good terms. So just because he loves Chelsea, he really does. So yeah, he's not one of these who's going to leverage it to force a move if Chelsea really show they want to keep him. But Poch is showing he wants to keep him because he plays him all the time, most minutes I think in pre-season, and then what has he started every game, captaining
Yep.
Chelsea now? I mean, what more of a message is Poch sending to the rest of Chelsea board that he loves Conor Gallagher? We have got Lavia coming back, and he might come in that position, or maybe even Nkunku plays there, and they switch it around a bit tactically. But Gallagher's got a part to play, and yeah, I think that they should sign him up. I think they should really, try and change the conversation around him and make him feel a bit special because really good player, and if he's not signed up by next summer, and Chelsea still don't show him that love, he's going to leave because Chelsea's policy is don't let players leave on a free anymore. So yeah, it's quite interesting the whole thing around him, but just so impressed that amid all that contract stuff and all that kind of thing, he's not affected him at all, has it? It's actually the best he's ever played for Chelsea right now. It is the best he's ever played for Chelsea.
Yeah, he said in your article, I think most times in my career I've had a point to prove. I love the challenge. I always want new challenges and targets to set myself. So I just want to carry on. And what I'm doing now is help Chelsea climb up the table. Obviously has a good relationship with the manager he's playing, which is easy to say. But it seems as if he's a Poch type of player, like an all heart, all energy producer, right? These are not just him running around stats that I've listed here, kind of comparing his analysis to Declan Rice, but he's getting stuck in on tackles. He's making interceptions. He's making more through balls and stuff like that. He's not as good of a carrier as Declan is, but in all other categories, he's there or thereabouts. And, I just, again, putting more respect on his name is part of my mission this season. Do you think, I think last question on Connor is obviously Chelsea have completely retooled the midfield, right? All the new signings, Caicedo and Fernandez and Lavia and Ugo Chukwu and all these types. Do you think that the player that is benefiting the most from kind of the betting in period is Connor, and that, Poch will find a way to fit him into any team that he has?
Well, he only has probably three midfielders to work with. So if Lavia is back and we're throwing a good trick in the mix, and Chelsea really want to push these guys, and it is a bit of a problem. And Poch likes flexible players, and Kunku can play there, and Matson, and we know that Cole Palmer can play there, especially as a 10. So and Carney's there as well. So. It is a tough situation, but somebody's got to be pushed, and somebody maybe has to fall into the background. But I think Connor's just doing everything he can to make sure he's the one who's pushed, right? So, yeah, for me, I think Caicedo was good against Arsenal and has had some good performances lately. Enzo, I've not been quite as warm on, but I just love his style and think he'll be class eventually. But they've got to make sure, I think, that Connor gets a good spot. And even if it means maybe, you sell one of the others, but Connor seems ready. He seems to be clicking for him. Yeah, I really like him. And I think Poch likes him, which is the most important thing. And you just got to back the manager, really, at the end of the day and say, we might have to make some hard choices, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think he's done everything.
Left wing, Mudryk, obviously had a really good first half against Arsenal, came off the boil a little bit in the second half after the goal was taken off. It seems as if to me that this is the guy that Poch has targeted to really push in a lot of different ways. He's been very vocal in the press about his performances, saying lately for me he's not at his best. Even after Mudryk does something positive. Is this simply a case of Potts seeing an insane amount of talent and wanting him to push on in the best way possible, or is there still quite a ways to go for Mudryk, or maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, I think a combination of both, but yeah, you summed some of that up really well. I think that yeah, he's obviously playing way better now, which is great. You can see that quite clearly. I mean, scoring simply just scoring the goals is key. The Fulham goal and now this one. Did he mean it? Did he not? Who cares, really?
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a goal. Goal's a goal, and he loved it, and I loved it. He loved it. It was almost like that for me. After seeing him have such a hard time as well, we talked about Cucurella, and you do worry about Mudryk in a similar way that the sort of stick and abuse and the ridicule he gets will get on top of him. You don't know if people sink or swim, but yeah, he's surviving that. I think it did affect him, but Poch is just such a great people person. If you're ever around Poch, he makes you feel special. He's really warm. He's a great character. I mean, and I think he really tries to understand his players really deeply. So, him giving Mudryk his book, that was quite a sweet little moment that he posted there. So yeah, I think Poch is actually inspired by Mudryk. As much as the other way around. I think it's actually really become a part of what the coaching team want to do is make sure this guy realizes potential. I think he has just spent maybe more time with Mudryk than any other player. He spent a lot of time thinking about Mudryk and trying to get him right and performing in the team, and it is working. We're seeing him smile. I remember when I last season he barely smiled, and everyone thought, oh, he didn't want to join Chelsea. He wanted to join Arsenal. That was the talk. But he is smiling now. He looks like he's happy to be there. But I think it's more complex than just that. It wasn't that. I think it was the fact, obviously, Chelsea suffered last season, but he comes from a war zone. Let's not forget. There's loads of different parts to this guy. He's a complex character, adapting to London, not speaking much English. I think it's been really tricky for him, but it's starting to come together. And I think again, we talk about Gallagher having the right manager, and in a different way. I don't think Gallagher's high maintenance. I think maybe Mudryk is, but I think he's got the right manager for what he needs, and that shows the sort of complexity of Poch as well, that he can develop different types of young players, and I think it really inspires him. And yeah, I think that where Mudryk is lacking, which takes more polishing. So I think the personality is getting polished very quickly, and the work rate and understanding the game a little bit, and adapting to his teammates. All those things are coming together very well. But I think tactically, and it's hard for us to see, I think tactically is what fans might not see is that he's not fully delivering. So I think every touch on the ball is class now, near enough. Like when he gets the ball, I'm feeling like I'm getting off my feet, but it's off the ball sometimes isn't quite right. So it was interesting at the Arsenal game. I was sat what in the first half, Mudryk played down my side, and Poch was the player he spoke to the most was Mudryk positionally. So that's when he's trying to build up in attacks, Mudryk's not always in the right place, and sometimes defensively and pressing wise, he's not in the right place. Although he always puts the work in, it's just him trying to sort of get the game. It's taking him a bit longer than some of the other players. So I think that's why I was a little bit surprised he faced Arsenal from the start, but he did well and proved me wrong, I guess, that he played so well and was impactful. But usually when he starts, he's one of the first players subbed off as well, and that's not by chance. It's tactical. He needs to work on the defensive side of his game. When Chelsea get leads, he'll always be the guy pulled off unless he can get that really. And he's not played 90 minutes for too many times in his Chelsea career. I think it's once or twice.
Once, yeah.
Yeah, once maybe. So I think that's where the missing link for him is tactically and maybe a bit defensively. Defending is an art as well. So some of the skills and tricks he does is great technique, amazing, and I love it. But defending is an art, so he needs to get his body position right, learn that side of the game, and it's taken him a bit of time. Shakhtar just did not have him defending at all in his academy days or in the first team. So he's got a lot of work, and unfortunately, because of Shakhtar's training a little bit there. But yeah, I'm really happy overall, and I think all the fans are behind him, and I think that's what he needs. He needs the fans behind him to become the player he needs to be.
Yeah, it was interesting because so you were talking about different ways that Poch manages these young players. He literally hugged Cole Palmer in the middle of the
Yeah.
match, and then he brought Mudryk off, right? And these are like it's two different ways to motivate and inspire two very young players in different ways. And I think it again just Mudryk having his moment where he kind of was in front of the fans, arms out, and kind of I think maybe accepting their love for the first time. It was a really interesting moment, and like you, I don't give a shit if he meant it, and they all count the same. So, very interesting player, but one to keep an eye on because I think Sterling also has performed pretty well off the left, and so that's a big decision for Poch going forward now, right? Is kind of who owns that territory, and it'll be interesting to see if that's Sterling or Mudryk.
Yeah, it was always going to be a big call, that one.
Just before we get into any sort of transfer rumors here to end the show, one thing kind of caught my eye from the weekend, and this was part of the women's football apparatus within England. Steve Parish, who's the chairman at Crystal Palace, came out with quotes saying that he wants salary caps and cost controls in women's football. He says there's simply too much of a mismatch between the top WSL clubs and those lower down in the women's football pyramid. He urged English football to look at the NWSL model in the United States for inspiration. This was widely panned as just simply being out of touch with how football is evolving, especially women's football is evolving. That the cost for Chelsea's women's team as one of the highest spenders in the world is a small percentage of the operation fund that the men's team has. And many people kind of regarded this as like, kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about sort of moment from a funding perspective. You're obviously covering a lot more of Chelsea's women's team now. What are your thoughts about this comment and others that have been out there like it? He's not the only one.
Yeah, I think women's football needs reform, but I just don't really believe in this one. I've never really been convinced. I was sat there listening to this guy who is supposed to be really powerful in football, one of the most well-known English football chairmen, and talking about women's football, and I just couldn't really get it. I do get, the US style closed leagues. They have, more competitive, more diverse results, but I don't think the product's better. And I think, promotion relegation is really important in English football. And that's why actually a lot of Americans really like English football now and will probably start watching more WSL as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think even Wrexham maybe will end up in the WSL at some point at the rate they're growing and things like that because it's such a lower hanging fruit than men's football. Like you say, so much more expensive. So, yeah, I think that's sort of I didn't get it. I do think women's football needs a lot of reform. Spent a lot of time with Emma Hayes in the last few weeks, and she's been really interesting on where I don't think she believes in the salary cap, of course. I don't think that women's players should be denied the chance to make more money as well. It's not like the men's game where there's millions floating around for all the players. If you get up to a good full-time wage, then that's a great achievement, I think, in women's football at the moment. And don't forget the short careers, so they might retire at 35 and they've not earned that much money like the men. So yeah, I'm not for something that damages that helps the billionaire owners and damages the not even millionaire players. So yeah, I don't really get it, but yeah, you've got things like the Man United and Arsenal both complaining about the Champions League. They got knocked out. Chelsea, the last team in the Champions League, last English team. It is a bit silly, I think, that Chelsea the only English team in the Champions League. And if Wolfsburg won the Champions League last season, then Chelsea wouldn't have got in the group stage automatically, which is mad. The champions don't get in the group stage automatically from England. I think they need to expand the Champions League. That's what Emma Hayes was saying. I just end up agreeing with Emma Hayes, like whatever she said, I generally agree with, and I think that's
easy thing to do right there. Yeah,
yeah, she's just brilliant. It's not because she's Chelsea; it's because she's brilliant. I'm absolutely spending time with her. She's really good, and yeah, I think she sympathises actually with the fact that the Champions League needs expanding and being better, but she's also got great respect for teams like Paris FC that knocked Arsenal out. So I guess
And
making it big
Wolfsburg. I
is the
mean,
best thing. Yeah.
they went on a pretty decent run. So anyway, just comments on that. And for a little bit of comparison, I think Mia Fishel, who is Chelsea's most expensive summer signing, was somewhere around 250,000 to get the transfer over. Is that about right, Naz?
Yeah. Which is like less than 1 week of Raheem Sterling's wages.
Yep. So, Steve, I implore you to do more research and have a better opinion than that. So there you go. Look, January transfer rumors to kind of end this one, Naz, keeping the people waiting. There's not a ton out there in terms of what I'm seeing kind of firm links to Chelsea in January. I think there's still a lot with the injury list that the club are looking to sort. Are there any hot button things that you want to cover off on in terms of different players that are kind of bubbling up to the surface for January and or the summer?
Yeah, I think you got a list here that I'm looking at, and yeah, I think Chelsea will probably not know what they're doing quite yet, but they'll also at the same time be really thinking about it. I think they're going to wait and see sort of how this period goes first. You were saying goalkeeper and striker probably is where you'd feel Chelsea lacking. I think most people would say that. I think certainly Chelsea would back Sanchez and think maybe Petrovic could do a good job in goal, but striker, I think they're a bit more open to and maybe planning towards without sort of committing that they're definitely going to sign players. And Chelsea as a club are, Poch is a very strange manager, and Chelsea are a strange club in that Pochettino is not the kind of manager that pushes for new signings. He prefers to develop his own players. You see that with Gallagher, Mudryk, Cucurella. He thinks if I'm a great manager, I should come into this building and make them all better. And generally, he's a very cautious operator in the transfer market. But Chelsea are very trigger happy in the transfer market as well. So it's quite interesting to see how that sort of situation will balance out. I mean, even Daniel Levy used to say that, Poch was the one manager that he worked with at Tottenham that wasn't badgering him for transfers. He barely ever mentioned it. He was like, if I can use an academy player, I'd rather use an academy player, which is his mentality. And Chelsea have a great academy and great young players. So I think that Chelsea will be quite cautious, but yeah, striker seems to be the most likely one if there is going to be something. And yeah, you've got a few names on your list. Osimhen, he could be an option. I don't know how easy that would be because Napoli is Napoli, so hard to deal with. Yes, he's sort of fallen out with the coach, but the manager might get sacked and that might sort of heal itself. I mean, I think that Osimhen is trying to force his way out of Napoli in the long run, but Napoli are very good at holding firm and don't really get bullied by their players. So I think that'll be tricky to get Osimhen over the line in January. But yeah, rightly so. A lot of people look at him. Yeah, Toney is very available. He's been linked with Chelsea. He is definitely a player Chelsea like. They might have to compete with Arsenal, but I think Osimhen would, he's just hired like the biggest football agency in English football to handle his transfer, which usually means that they're going to have great leverage and try and make it happen. Now, Brentford are going to ask for something like 80 million at the moment, which I think most people would say is too high, but yeah, that might be able to get negotiated down. But Toney's got just 18 months left in his contract by the time January comes around. So yeah, Chelsea or anyone else would be in a strong position, and he's ready for that move massively. He wants to move. So yeah, I'd say that for strikers, those are two options. And then we've found out today 15 million release clause for Sehu Girassi, who's got the most goals in Europe right now, 15 goals in 9 games. It's a Bundesliga record. So yeah, maybe not really anything to do with Chelsea right now, but surely everyone is looking at that and thinking opportunity.
Yeah, I tossed Garassi in for my pal Joe, who's been monitoring him all season, and is desperate to kind of see him move to Chelsea. I mean, the Ivan Toney situation is really interesting, right? Chelsea playing Brentford this weekend. Brentford have not looked nearly as kind of complete without him this season. I think that's pretty fair to say, despite beating Burnley at the weekend. He's a really dynamic striker, kind of is always in the right place at the right time. He's been off for a significant period of time after the betting charges last year. So even if he does get his dream transfer, I don't think it's going to be right away that he's ready to make an impact for any team, let alone a new team. It's a massive, I hate to use this word, it's a massive gamble, right? Because it's a player who can score in the league. He's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League, but maybe isn't the instant solution that you'd be looking for kind of post layoff from the betting charges.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think that I spent a lot of time with Brentford during Chelsea's pre-season because Brentford were on the Premier League tour out in the United States, and I was chatting to the sporting director of Brentford and things like that, and they very much think that Ivan Toney will be back to his best. It'll be like he's never been away. When he comes back, he's playing for Brentford B as well. I don't know if they're just talking like this to try and talk up the market, almost like their ideal situation would be an Arsenal-Chelsea bidding war. So I wonder if that's the situation a little bit there. I mean, they sort of succeeded making that situation happen for David Raya. I think that they're really keeping him fit. He's allowed to train with the Brentford's first team at the minute. He is playing in behind closed doors friendlies. They feel like he will be, right away hit the ground running, and they are struggling a little bit without him. So they might be in a relegation battle. So I think the lower Brentford are on the table, the more they'll ask for in a weird way. If they're mid-table, they might think, you know what, cash in now. We'll plan for the summer. But if they're properly in a relegation battle, which is possible, then they might hold him because he could be the difference maker. He's class. And to be fair to Brentford, they're really good at talent ID, and part of talent ID is valuing your own talent as well. And they think that he's in the top 10 strikers in the world. They think that the Premier League is so good now that if you can guarantee 20 goals a season in the Premier League, that means you'd score maybe 30 in the Bundesliga, 30 in La Liga. So they think that Ivan Toney is an absolute monster, and they should be asking for massive fees for him. So I think that's sort of what I'd summarize the situation as. Chelsea are really looking at it, but I think it's totally dependent on how good Brozier is, how good Jackson is, injuries as well. And Nkunku, he's going to play a part. He's going to play up front quite a bit. So those kind of things. And don't forget, Jackson's also at the AFCON, so that might be another factor in African Cup of Nations. So he'll be missing for a month at some point. So
he's Chelsea's only player going to AFCON this year. I know in years past we've had many absences during that tournament, but that's going to be one for sure to kind of look at. I mean, it kind of feels like for the next, let's call it, we're 10 weeks away from January, essentially. This is kind of the run. Like if you're a striker and you want to be guaranteed playing time, you got to start banging in the goals now, because otherwise, our owners have been keen to look at January transfer moves in the past. So
exactly, they can't resist, and we've got to love them for that.
Well, kind of a fun way to end there, Naz, but appreciate all the updates as usual. It's great to see you. Very happy that you're a happily married man, and we will catch up in November for our next break. Maybe we'll talk about Pacha's book. Maybe we'll do a book club meeting. Let's do it.
Yeah. If anyone has any creative ideas, please send us your ideas.
Yeah, it's weird. You guys were a little slower this season than you maybe have been in previous years. Not as much kind of bubbling around. It's been nice to kind of have a little bit of a break between matches instead of flying into all these, huh?
Yeah, I'm feeling at peace now. Yeah, it's been a quiet week, definitely.
Yeah. All right, pal. Well, we'll talk to you soon. Obviously, Chelsea fans, thank you for tuning in and making the show so special. We are very excited to be back and playing football again. And until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.